You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Friday, the 18th of October. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. We have a lot to talk about today here. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And if all goes as planned this weekend, which is when I'm putting my office and studio back together, this will be the last time you see this particular view behind me, because on Monday, we should be back to our normal broadcasting system. Before we get into the news, though, we have a special guest online right now, and that's Jim Fetzer, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the name. So, Jim, are you there?
Yes, I am, Michael. Very pleased to be with you.
Well, welcome back to the show here. And, obviously a lot of people are talking about this ridiculous trial you've been put through and how, to give an overview, I can't imagine there's anybody listening to this show who doesn't know the story, but this goes back to the Sandy Hook shooting, which appears to have been a staged false flag. It's been confirmed that the school was not even active at the time. There was no computer traffic going in or out, no phone traffic going in or out. The place was full of mold and safety violations. And so the whole thing appears to have been another one of the hoaxes by the gun grabbers. And I remember seeing this video of the sheriff coming on out and literally threatening anybody with arrest if they dared air any conspiracy theories about what had happened. So I guess they knew that they'd kind of blown their own credibility. So you've written a lot of articles about what happened at Sandy Hook, including a book called Nobody Died at Sandy Hook, for which you were sued by Mr. Posner. And the judge found 4 statements in the book that he considered defamatory and basically declared you guilty by imperial edict. You didn't even get a jury trial on this one. The only time they called in a jury was to determine the amount of damages, which came out to $450,000. So why don't you give us your version of events, exactly what happened, about the examination of the documents in question and so forth?
Well, you sure got the right idea there, Michael. Very nicely done. It was actually not a sheriff, but a Lieutenant Paul Vance of the Connecticut State Police, who we have discovered were actually running the behind the scenes. We have in the book, by the way, which was published on 22 October 2015, I brought together 13 experts, including 6 current or retired PhD professors, to sort out what had actually happened. And we discovered that the school had been closed by 2008. You've cited some of the evidence, therefore, it was in deplorable condition, loaded with asbestos and other biohazards, damaged by a hurricane. There were no students there, as you observe. In fact, initially, there were some residents in the area who were willing to speak out, but after the threat was made, which you've correctly identified, they tended to clam up. They were saying they were surprised any students were there because the school had been abandoned. It was actually a 2-day FEMA exercise. It was a mass casualty drill involving children. On the 13th, the day before the official shooting on the 14th, we have not only all the evidence from the scene that was a drill, including a portable sign that said everyone must check in, porta potties already in place, pizza, bottled water available at the firehouse, many coming to the scene wearing name tags on lanyards. All of those are very consistent with a FEMA exercise. It states right in the manual, which we discovered and published as Appendix A to the book, that everyone must check in with a controller upon arrival. Refreshments and restrooms, of course, are standard parts of FEMA exercises, and they identify the players by color-coded name tags on lanyards. Michael, even parents were bringing children to the scene, which of course would be absurd. No parent's going to bring a child to the scene of a child shooting massacre. Events the following day were even more striking. There was no surge of EMTs into the building, no string of ambulances to rush their little bodies off to hospitals where they could be declared dead or alive. No medevac helicopter was called. Triage tarps were laid out, but no bodies of dead or wounded were ever placed on them. I have frequently pointed out you can prove that this was a hoax just on the basis of a photograph of the parking lot, because you'll notice there's none of the blue and white signage for handicap parking. I checked the laws in Connecticut, the federal and state laws. This school was out of compliance with federal and state laws because it didn't have wheelchair accessibility. We have a wooden stairway. No wheelchair could have navigated. There's a steel pipe sticking out that could have popped the eye out of a little kid. No. This is a very well-to-do community. It's been compared as Beverly Hills as one of the two richest communities in the whole country, Michael. And another sign from the parking lot, and there are two. One is that it was only a 38-degree ground temperature day, Fahrenheit, meaning you'd obviously have to heat up the school if you were going to conduct classes. But there's no steam or heat rising from the building, no doubt because the boilers were decrepit from non-use and couldn't be fired up. And what many find even more striking is that the vehicles parked in the center rows all facing the building. The driving instructions would have you come in off of Dickinson Drive, the only access route, turn right, curl around, then park facing away. But it appears it was just a whole lot simpler to bring the vehicles in a single line and put them in 2 by 2 by 2. After all, they were only props. Who was even going to notice?
Well, we all did. We all noticed.
I know, isn't it amazing? That's what they thought. In the book, Michael, we have chapter 7 of 50 photographs of them furnishing an empty house to serve as the Adam Lanza residence. The most striking of which is a photograph of the Nancy Lanza bedroom where her son Adam is alleged to have shot her with a .22 caliber rifle. There's a little red stuff on the bed, but it doesn't look like blood. I think it might be raspberry jam. There's a cedar chest at the foot of the bed that has forms on it. They were keeping records of how they arranged the rooms on forms you find in various photographs. And with her keen eye, Kelly Watt, who has her own home and commercial cleaning service, spotted a blue moving pad that in their haste they had forgotten to remove. In chapter 8, we have another 50 photographs of how they refurbished the school to serve as the stage, including one is quite where you see what I initially thought was a crime investigating vehicle, very large, in the parking lot. And just above the roof, you can see a string of 4 windows in classroom 10 that are undamaged. That's significant because after the event, they'd be shot out. So you know for a certainty this is before the shooting. You got a flagpole at full mast come down. There's a familiar face leaning against the wall with his arms folded. The medical examiner, Wayne Carver, and there's crime scene tape up for a crime that is yet to be committed. We discovered between the first and second edition that although we'd originally thought it was taken the morning of the 14th, it actually was taken the evening of the 13th based on shadow analysis. The whole case revolved around a couple of statements made in the book. I can read them for you so you see what we're talking about. They actually have the... Go ahead, Michael.
I said, please do. Please read the
statements.
Yeah.
Okay. The second edition of this is actually paragraph 17 and 18 of the complaint. The second edition of Nobody Died at Sandy Hook accuses plaintiff of issuing and or possessing a forged copy of, and it's very odd, they just referred to the decedent, the alleged decedent, as NP. NP's death certificate, in particular, page 183, it's actually 181, of Nobody Died at Sandy Hook states Noah Posner's death certificate is a fake, which we have proven on a dozen or more grounds. At page 232, the book states Mr. Posner sent her a death certificate, which turned out to be a fabrication. At page 242, the book states, as many Sandy Hook researchers are aware, The very document Posner circulated in 2014 with its inconsistent tones, fonts, and clear digital manipulation was clearly a forgery. It continues in paragraph 18. Mr. Fetzer's publication of this false accusation against the plaintiff was not limited to the book. He repeated that false statement on one or more blogs, including, and then he cites Robert David Steele's blog, where he and I had collaborated with him in editing a memoranda series, short pieces for the President of the United States, which anyone can download for free, about how we know Sandy Hook was a FEMA drill where nobody died. The post, a particular contribution of mine, where I had several, was dated August 5th, 2018. Their defendant, Fetzer, made the following false statement. NP's death certificate turned out to be a fabrication with the bottom half of a real death certificate and the top half of a fake, with no file number and the wrong estimated time of death at 11 a.m. when officially the shooting took place between 9:35 and 9:40 that morning. So that was the whole basis for the complaint, Michael. The book is 446 pages long. Noah Posner or Leonard Posner, who calls himself Lenny, are mentioned on only 17 pages. And these were the few sentences they cited. What's rather fascinating about this is the claim was made, and they had a psychiatrist as their primary witness, actually virtually their whole case, who testified that Mr. Posner was recovering from the death of his son and would by 2014 and would have led a relatively normal life, but for these sentences in this book, which caused him to have a relapse of PTSD from which, according to the psychiatrist, he will never recover. So look at the absurdity on its face. He can lose his son in a mass shooting, but he's going to get over that, but for a few sentences suggesting the death certificate is a fabrication, when, after all, Michael, everyone who studied Sandy Hook and knows that it was a FEMA exercise recognized that any death certificate for purported victims is going to be a fake. I mean, it's unbelievable. And Posner, by the way, has been extremely aggressive in going after those who provide evidence that Sandy Hook was itself a staged event, including having taken down 1,555 videos from YouTube, which you know well, had to include a great many making assertions that are far stronger than these observations of mine. And he's boasted of being responsible for taking down tens of thousands of content items from the internet. Well, one of the very interesting aspects, by the way, of PTSD is that those who have PTSD display avoidance behavior. They don't want to take actions that remind them of the traumatic event. But in this case, his behavior was completely the opposite. It's also extremely interesting, Michael, that the case was actually my liability, to wit, the decision that these statements were in fact false and thereby had defamed Mr. Posner, was made by the court during a summary judgment, which cannot be properly decided unless there are no disputed facts. Well, the authenticity of the death certificate was a disputed fact. It turns out it was an uncertified death certificate, and it's a violation of Connecticut law. Not even parents are allowed to have uncertified death certificates, but also that I had two forensic document examiners attest, and we had their formal reports, their affidavits, their examiner reports, their credentials, which are very imposing, that not only was that death certificate a fabrication, but three others that had surfaced during the course of the case were as well. Let me just read you from the first of the two, his determination, a bit from the first paragraph. His name is Larry Wickstrom. My name is Larry Wickstrom. I'm a computer printer, scanner, network communication forensic expert, curriculum vitae attached. The documents that I usually evaluate for fabrication, alteration, and misrepresentation are financial contracts, affidavits, and exhibits entered with pleadings. As the client, Moonrock Books, was referred to me by an attorney that I'd worked with on foreclosure cases, I did not expect to find multiple obviously altered versions of a child's death certificate when I opened the email attachments provided for my initial examination. In his final determinations, he includes, for my examination of the documents which were presented to me electronically and by U.S. mail, I make these determinations. One, that the 132 kilobyte JPEG image certificate of death for Noah Samuel Posner, age 6, certificate of death 1, as examined, is an alteration and unreliable document image. No determination of originality or intentional acts of forgery can be supported due to the multi-generational copy degradation of printed image and low resolution of the captured image. 2, that the obviously altered in shape and content 1.7 megabyte JPEG image certificate of death for Noah Samuel Posner, age 6, certificate of death 2, is a forgery. 3, that the state of Connecticut Registrar of Vital Statistics has issued 2 different and certified as true versions of the state file number 2012-07-078-0033, a certificate of death for Noah Samuel Posner, age 6. That, for reasons disclosed and undisclosed, the content of state file number 212-07-07803 has been digitally and physically altered. 5th, that until such time as the state of Connecticut addresses and rectifies the conditions that allow this kind of record manipulation, any true copy of a record file certified by the seal of State of Connecticut Department of Public Health should be considered suspect and treated as unreliable. End of report. The judge just set those aside as mere opinions and went ahead and issued his decision in spite of the disputed status of the death certificate, which means, of course, I'm appealing, and that is an extraordinarily stunning aspect of very central to the appeal.
Well, as I recall, the FBI's crime statistics for that year show no deaths in Connecticut. That's another oddity in this entire case. And but yeah, the victim of a kangaroo court. The judge just said, we're not going to pay attention to these document experts. It's just an opinion. And I, the judge, hereby have declared that all of this is defamatory and we're going to proceed to damages. So you got railroaded, no question about it. And I'm glad you're appealing, and I wish you luck on that. But I think the reason that this case has attracted so much attention is not because of Sandy Hook itself, but because I think they're trying to send a warning. Because the U.S. government and the corporate media are finally coming to grips with the fact they've lost control of the narrative to the American people. We don't trust them anymore because we've been lied to so much. And so they're trying to basically silence all questioning and dissent. YouTube is doing it, Facebook's doing it, Google's doing it, Twitter's doing it, and not just with regard to Sandy Hook. As you're probably aware, Project Veritas just put out a 3-part video exposing CNN's bias against the White House, and all of the corporate social media, they're taking those videos and articles down. It's now a banned subject.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning, Michael, and you're 100% correct. This was actually a classic SLAPP suit, meaning a strategic lawsuit against public participation that was intended to punish citizen journalists. And I've been, a columnist and a writer, a reporter for multiple venues, including Veterans Today for a couple of years, and on my blog and elsewhere. They're trying to silence anyone who speaks out and exposes corruption by the deep state, so that it was, camouflaged precisely as you are implying as a defamation suit. When indeed, if these our findings are correct, no defamation took place. Of course, I must respect that the court made the finding, but the very fact that I'm appealing obviously reflects my disagreement with the court's finding, as I've explained here and now.
Well, I think the fact that you were not even allowed to have a jury to present the evidence to tells you right there that this was a study in foregone conclusions. They were going to nail you. They were going to try and nail Alex Jones and Wolfgang Halbig as a warning to stay silent. Okay, we're going to take a break for commercial. We're going to be back here with Jim Fetzer after these few words.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Jim Fetzer, author of the books Nobody Died at Sandy Hook, who was sued for defamation on the basis of a claim that the death certificates for this 6-year-old boy had been altered digitally, and he had document examiners who came on in and said, we're experts in this, and these have been faked, and the judge just said, that's just your opinion, and threw it out. And railroaded Fetzer into this case. And the only time they called a jury was to determine the award, which has been set at $450,000. And this is being done as part of a campaign to get the independent media, to get independent researchers to self-censor, to say, I know something bad has happened. but I don't want to say anything because something bad may happen to me. And you're right. A lot of the people who lived around the school who wanted to speak out about the fact that the school was already closed went silent. There was that very strange situation where a whole bunch of people in that neighborhood all of a sudden had their mortgages paid off completely. So, I mean, it's just a bizarre, bizarre story. So where do you go from here now?
Well, Michael, the case, the complaint was very narrowly drawn, as you have heard, just to focus on those 4 sentences. When I responded in court, and when you're sued, you have the opportunity to move to dismiss the suit or to submit an answer. And because I thought this was an opportunity to present all the evidence we'd accumulated and published in the book, that I ought to respond and have it certified in a formal fashion in a court of law. So that I explained I would have 2 lines of defense. First, all the proof, abundant and compelling, that it was a FEMA drill and that no one had died. Indeed, one of the other contributors to the book, Paul Preston, who's himself a radio host for his Agenda 21, who's been a principal, he's supervised active shooter drills, was so troubled by what he saw being broadcast from Newtown that day that he reached out to his contacts in the Obama Department of Education, all of whom confirmed that it had been a drill, that no one had died, that it was done to promote gun control. And then my second line of defense would be specific properties of the death certificate, about the shaded background, about different typefaces and the like. Now, the judge actually narrowed my ability to present evidence to only evidence related directly to the death certificate per se. So all that vast and compelling evidence I've been describing was not allowed to be introduced into the case. I also discovered in the process that some of the reasons I had for concluding the death certificate was fake were mistaken, because it turns out there are 3 different parties that make out the death certificate. There's a center part made out by the medical examiner about the cause of death. There's a top part made out by the funeral parlor about the funeral. And then the bottom is made out by the town registrar of vital statistics, in this case for Newtown, Debbie Aurelia. Now, what that meant were a couple of my arguments about it were mistaken, which I would gladly have corrected were there to have been a 3rd edition of the book, but then I was correct that it was a fabrication because it had neither a file number nor a town nor a state registration, the town registration being the crucial one. And in Connecticut, not even a parent is allowed to have an uncertified death certificate. So it was, in fact, not a proper document on its face. Now, this led me to be very much constrained in the amount of evidence I could produce into the context of the case. And in fact, the whole first part of the case, through the summary judgment hearing, I was unrepresented by an attorney. I do believe it would have made a major difference, because the attorney would have opposed rendering a ruling when there was an issue, a major issue in dispute, namely the authenticity of the death certificate. But where, by virtue of not having an attorney, I mean, the judge just moved forward and proceeded precisely as you have described.
Well, yeah, it would have been better if you'd had an attorney. It would have been better if you'd had a jury. But very obviously, the judge was compromised. Probably has political ambition. But there's absolutely no question that he was not operating in an objective, unbiased way. And his job there was to basically make sure that you got convicted, so that they could hit you with this heavy fine and basically drive you out of business. And again, I don't think it's personally directed at you, but as a warning. And yes, you got a very brief case, but I keep thinking back to the Boston Marathon bombing, when Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was given a court-appointed attorney, and she walked right in and said to the jury, "Yeah, he did it." Talk about rush to judgment. Anyway, Jim, we got to do another commercial break. Stay on the line. I'm going to come right back.
Okay. Thanks, Michael.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Jim Fetzer, the author of the books Nobody Died at Sandy Hook, who basically is the victim of a gross miscarriage of justice in that he was denied a jury trial. He was denied the opportunity to present exculpatory evidence that he was not, in fact, guilty of defamation. He got railroaded by the judge, period, end of discussion. And I'm glad he's appealing, and I wish you a lot of luck. But there was something else that you started to say when we went to commercial break.
Well, it was very interesting how their whole case relied upon one expert who is supposed to be knowledgeable about PTSD. but who was basing his diagnosis not on any verified statements about the case or about me or my relationship with Leonard Posner, but on what he had been told by Leonard Posner and his attorneys, which included the claim that I had claimed that Leonard Posner had fabricated the death certificate for his son, which I had not. I had declared that the death certificate itself was not authentic, but not that he had done it. That I had harassed Leonard Posner. I had never harassed Leonard Posner. They claimed I had had phone calls with Leonard Posner. I had had no phone calls with Leonard Posner. Anyone who actually read the chapter, by the way, would have known those claims were false. Now, both Leonard Posner, as acknowledged during a video deposition he gave here in Madison earlier in the year, that he'd never read the book. The psychiatrist testified he'd never read the book, but it's even worse than that. He claimed to have read the chapter, but if he'd read the chapter, which is chapter 11, and it's the same in the first edition and the second, in fact, 85-90% of the book is the same in the second edition as in the first, where the book was initially banned by Amazon.com on 19 November 2050, after I put it up for sale on 22 October and it had sold nearly 500 copies. I released it for free as a PDF. Now, anyone can still download it as a PDF, but I have no doubt one of the objectives of this lawsuit was to try to force the removal of the book after it had been banned and I'd released it from the internet altogether. So I want to say anyone out there who has an interest in this case, you can right now download for free the first edition of the book from the internet. There's several different places. And,
Can you share those with us? Can you share those with us? Where can people go to download the PDF of the first edition?
No, Michael, just put the title into your browser. Just put the title, Nobody Died at Sandy Hook PDF, and you'll have options. So it's that simple. Now, interestingly, nothing ever emerged about why Leonard Posner might have a motive to have faked all of this. In fact, we know from our research on Sandy Hook generally that sympathetic but gullible Americans contributed between $27 and $130 million in donations, which, assuming that report or calculation is accurate, divided between the 26 families that were supposed to be the survivors who lost children or relatives, that would work out to between $1 and $5 million a piece. Now, my opinion is that, and this was a part of my answer, I pressed this upon the court, but was never allowed to pursue it, that in fact there was a fraud being perpetrated on the court because the person who was presenting himself as Leonard Posner wasn't the same person whose image had appeared worldwide thousands of times. And you have to ask yourself, Michael, why has this man gone to such extraordinary lengths to not allow his image from his video deposition or from the court to be broadcast when it's already appeared millions of times? I personally believe there's only one explanation, namely because it's not the same guy. In fact, at the time prior to this trial, but after the summary judgment, I believed I was entitled to elicit testimony from a witness for impeachment, so that I sent the video deposition to two parties, one a former attorney who'd been giving me legal advice and the other to Wolfgang Halbig. And yes. Wolfgang just jumped on it and wrote to 4 different stations of the FBI. What are the consequences of an impersonator giving a video deposition as Leonard Posner? And he enumerated a half a dozen reasons why this was not Leonard Posner. Well, I have the images also published on a blog because of my filing in this case, a public record where you can actually see the image, and other commentators on the blog have made even more devastating comments about the differences between the parties. But when, during the course of the discovery, I had sought to confirm that my suspicion that the photograph of Noah Posner was actually a fabrication by using the photographs of the person who's supposed to be his older stepbrother, Michael Vabner, as a child, where I'd done considerable research. We'd collectively, 6 of us, discovered they had the same eyes, they had the same eyebrows, they had the same nose, they had the same mouth, they had the same ears, they had the same shape of skull. And where I reached out to Larry Rivera, who has mastered the techniques of photogrammetry, which is the application of mathematics to the study of photographs, and had previously confirmed the identity of the man in the doorway at the book depository in Dallas as a Kennedy motorcade passed by to be Lee Oswald. So we knew what we'd already established on the basis of his height, his weight, his build, his shirt, and his T-shirt to be Lee Oswald and not Billy Lovelady, who himself described himself as 2 to 3 inches shorter, 15 to 20 pounds heavier, but also he was wearing a short sleeve red and white vertically striped shirt. We knew it was Lee Oswald already, but Larry did the brilliant work of confirming that even the facial features are those of Lee Oswald. So I sent Larry 2 photographs, one of Michael Vabner, one of Noah Posner, and just asked. He didn't even know their names. I didn't tell him the names. I didn't give him the background. I didn't say this had anything to do with Sandy Hook. And I asked him if they were the same person, and he created a GIF where you can see Noah Posner turn into Michael Vabner. I mean, it's just stunning, Michael. It's probably the most significant telling development proof positive that this whole thing was an elaborate sham. In fact, Mona Alexis Presley has actually determined that some of the parents appear to use photographs of themselves when they were children to pull off this stunt. Now, Lenny, therefore, is highly motivated because in my counterclaims, not only for abuse of process, for using the legal process for improper purposes, which you've well described, but for fraud upon the court with his identity business, but also for having committed fraud and theft by deception because he got all this money from American citizens when they were in the false state of belief that he'd actually lost a child at Sandy Hook. So Leonard Posner has powerful motives to eliminate the evidence that would expose Sandy Hook as a hoax. He's worried he might have to give back the money. He might be prosecuted for fraud and theft by deception and go to jail. So, I mean, the guy's highly motivated, and this, I think, explains his behavior, but also in a more general fashion, you're exactly right that they're attempting to use this case in order to demonstrate that those who seek to expose government machinations are going to pay a heavy price. And indeed, it's fascinating that on a blog, I believe it was Sandy Hook Facts, that is maintained by a colleague of his with the Honor, HONR network, which he's using as the instrument to take down these videos and blogs and so forth in such vast a number. He actually had one where he was confronted with someone saying that you lost the case against Wolfgang Helbig. What happened there was he brought a case against Wolfgang for invasion of privacy for revealing some personal information, but he wouldn't show up in court. They went through hearing after hearing, and the judge became impatient and finally directed that Leonard Posner had to sit for a video deposition. Well, rather than sit for a video deposition, he withdrew the case. But he also... That allowed Wolfgang's counterclaim to go forward, but Posner very cleverly wrote a complaint against the judge saying he didn't believe he could get a fair hearing, which was obviously purely manipulative. The judge couldn't make heads or tails of it, but excused himself. And the next judge came in and dismissed Wolfgang's suit. I mean, you know, it was a little too obvious what was going on there. So the fact is that once they discovered that Wolfgang had sent this out, the plaintiff's attorney filed a complaint against me for violating the confidentiality. I went into court and explained that I was seeking to find a confirming witness to impeach Leonard Posner on the stand because he's not the person he claimed to be. The judge was very severe with me for violating confidentiality on the grounds that if that was what I wanted to do, I ought to have come to him to seek his permission. And I was socked with a $7,000 fine for legal fees for the attorneys having to deal with this. So I was already, $7,000 out just on that basis alone for seeking to expose the truth, and where Wolfgang confirmed with my suspicion, but this remains an undeveloped aspect of the case. I mean, So you got not only is Noah Posner a fiction made up of photographs of Michael Vabner as a child, but the man who's appearing in court appears not to be the Leonard Posner whose image, with that of little Noah, has gone around the world. Where I, in my pleadings in the course of discovery, explained that I believe there was a father-son relationship involved here, that Noah Posner was a fiction made up of photographs of Michael Vabner, but we had so many photographs of little Noah with his father Leonard that if little Noah was in fact Michael Vabner, then I believe that the parent calling himself Leonard Posner was Reuben Vabner, his father. And therefore, at a key juncture in the case, when the plaintiffs wanted to secure DNA results to affirm that the Noah victim was indeed the child of the Leonard father, I requested the court to expand the DNA base to include both Noah Posner, Leonard Posner, Michael Vabner, Reuben Vabner, and Veronique De La Rosa, the mother, which the court would not allow. It turns out, by the way, they got the blood sample from Wayne Carver, the medical examiner, who is not by law entitled to have it. So, it's supposed to be from the custody of a common center where they keep residue of results of criminal acts. So, I mean, this case is just shot full with all kinds of violations of law and procedure from beginning to end. I mean, notice, I was being sued in the complaint for a death certificate that was attached to the complaint that had actually been amended by Leonard Posner in 2013, which had both a file number, it had the town certification, it had the state certification. And in the complaint, it claimed that there was no material difference between this state certified death certificate and the death certificate that I published in the book, which he had given to Kelly Watt in 2014. Kelly had submitted an affidavit that this was indeed the same death certificate he made available to her. But just think of it. I really was being sued over a death certificate I'd never before seen, never commented or published upon. I mean, it was that absurd. And notice this too. Since he was sharing this death certificate that had no town or state certification or any file number with Kelly in 2014, when, by the way, no one could get access to any death certificates, they were being withheld, which made his release of this one quite a sensational development, when he already knew that it was not the current version of the death certificate, which he himself had amended in 2013.
So all these other death certificates were being withheld. I thought a death certificate was supposed to be a public record.
The town clerk, Debbie Aurelia, entered into secret negotiation with the Connecticut state legislature to avoid having to release death certificates, which you has observed for 150 or 200 years have been in the public domain. And now in Connecticut, they no longer make available death certificates or autopsy reports to the public, which means if you want to commit a crime, if you want to murder somebody, Connecticut is a great place because you can commit your murder. The public can't even get access to the records that would enable to make a preliminary investigation of whether or not this was on the up and up. I'm telling you, Michael, the state of Connecticut appears to be, corrupt from top to bottom. We know, by the way, this was a Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Eric Holder operation. Barack Obama had nullified the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, which precluded the use of the same techniques of disinformation and propaganda within the United States that were being used without, by the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012, just in time to bring us Sandy Hook. In other words, he legitimized faking all these events and publishing them and reporting on them as though they were real. They include the Boston bombing, Orlando, and Dallas, Parkland, Charlottesville. And get this, Michael, I have brought together in those various cases other experts who are expert on each of these cases. That's what I do. I specialize in bringing together the best experts to take a conspiracy theory from a theory in the weak sense of a conjecture, rumor, or guess to a theory in the strong sense of an empirically testable explanatory hypothesis in the sense of Newton's theory of gravitation, Einstein's theory of relativity, Darwin's theory of evolution, with special concern for sorting out the fabricated from the authentic evidence. I've done it again and again and again. I did it with Sandy Hook. I did it with the Boston bombing. I did it with Orlando and Dallas. I did it with Charlottesville. I did it with Parkland. I even did it with the moon landing. And there's now this new brilliant film, American Moon, by this Italian director that just takes apart the moon landing. Well, I was publishing about it quite a long time ago. Amazon has now banned 5 more of our books: the Moon book, the Boston book, the Orlando book, the Parkland book, the Charlottesville book. Michael, half of our books, we have 12 books at Moon Rock Books, half of them have been banned by Amazon. That tells you what's going on.
Well, obviously on the issue of the moon landings, you and I disagree, and we have disagreed about that before. So let's get on back here to Sandy Hook and the Boston Marathon bombing. I mentioned before how Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's court-appointed attorney, supposed to be a defense attorney, walks into the courtroom and tells the jury he did it. And, I could have gotten him off with reasonable doubt, because the backpacks that Tsarnaev brothers were wearing when they were photographed at the marathon were gray, and the remnants of the bombs that went off were in these black backpacks with an easily recognizable white patch. And there's your reasonable doubt. And that's all it takes to acquit somebody, supposedly,
Wonderful.
in the United States. Okay?
Michael, you're right on top of this. Listen, you'd be interested to know that there's a retired professor of law, John Remington Graham, who resides in Canada, who assisted me in constructing my initial answer for the court, but where, more significantly, he has entered an amicus curiae brief on the basis of the backpack evidence, where I am the first of the 3 cited Americans in support of that amicus brief, which the First Circuit Court has accepted and should make a difference to the ultimate outcome.
Jim, I got to put you on hold. Another commercial break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this check is wrong. I worked a holiday and 7 hours of overtime. Not getting paid correctly is a real pain. It could also hurt our boss if our company provides out-of-compliance checks. That's right, construction companies doing business with the government can get fined, or officials of the companies can go to jail if the checks aren't right. It's a law. The Davis-Bacon Act has 30 compliance issues for every check, but there is an easy way for construction companies to be in compliance. EMARS offers Compliant Client, a web-based system that finds and corrects all 30 of the possible out-of-compliance check issues. Users of Compliant Client report an 80% savings in time and money. Running a weekly payroll usually takes about 5 minutes. All 15,000 plus clients of EMARS have never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better on check day. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-595-0466.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877 928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And we're finishing up here with Jim Fetzer. And Jim, I'm sure that you're aware that there are plenty of other people besides Posner who have a very strong motive for you basically get crushed out of existence. And again, it goes back to the fact that the U.S. government has legalized deception operations against the American people, like 9/11, and they're starting to realize they don't work. In fact, if I would say what happened at Sandy Hook is they overreached. They were overconfident. They thought they could just put this thing out there. They'd be believed. The American people would fall for it. But they made so many mistakes, and I think that's why that police lieutenant was out there issuing that threat, is they knew that they'd made a lot of mistakes, and they were going to get called on it here. So we've got about another 3 minutes until the top of the hour here, and I'm going to have to let you go. What else do you want to share with our audience?
Well, I think you're exactly right. And in fact, when InfoWars published a piece about the book having been banned initially, they had an even more clear version of the photograph of that, what I thought initially was a SWAT team, but appears to have been a crime investigative unit vehicle there in the parking lot before the event had occurred. Now, it was a good piece. It was up for about 38 minutes and had already drawn like 138 comments when it was taken down. And I'm quite certain it was taken down because it had attached to the photograph, credit Connecticut State Police, which obviously blew the... Yeah. It's all in the record there, Michael. I tell you, I'm very grateful for the expressions of support I've been receiving. Intermixed with a certain amount of hate mail and, phone calls. Not everyone is happy about this. I think it's very difficult for Americans to admit that they've been played. Will Rogers, I think, made the observation that it's not what you don't know that hurts you, it's what you think you know that ain't so. And this is one of those cases where it's just very, very difficult when you've heard these reports for so many years. It was a very cleverly designed psyop to have maximal emotional impact on the American people. So, I think you're right. It was the first of what would become many, some of which have become incredibly ludicrous, like the El Paso shooting. When he's coming in, he's got trousers with big cargo pockets, and when he's going out, they've disappeared. So what did he do? Decide, well, I'm here at Walmart, I'm going to pick up a new pair of trousers. And the shooter in Dayton had died in 2014. So that's a miraculous resurrection. In fact, that was like Sandy Hook, because Adam Lanza, the purported shooter, was initially recorded in the Social Security Death Index as having died on the 13th, making his feat in shooting 20 children and 6 adults the following day all the more remarkable.
Yeah, that definitely would be remarkable. I remember when there was this big argument over trying to get Adam Lanza's medical records to find out what medications he might be on, because of concerns that these mass shooters are very often induced to behave this way because of prescription psychiatric medication. But Connecticut's economy is heavily tied in with Big Pharma, and so they put the kibosh on that. Anyway, Jim Fetzer, thank you for spending the last hour with us. We're going to let you go here, take a break for station identification. Back with more news after these few words.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open. 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and opinions. Okay, so Donald Trump had his rally in Dallas last night. Apparently, people literally waited in line for 2 days to get in and see him. It was a huge success. And yesterday we commented on this story that somebody was trying to put out the story there was going to be an attempt on his life, which I don't rule that out, but I didn't think it was going to happen in Dallas, and it didn't. But they did arrest a man wearing a vest, helmet, and a backpack near the rally counter-protesters. And the officers confiscated a gun, a breathing mask, knee pads, and some type of aerosol can, which, given that he had a breathing mask, is probably some form of pepper spray. Okay, well, our little ceasefire pause, whatever you want to call it, over in Syria did not hold on. And there's already fighting reported between the Turkish and Kurdish forces, who never signed on to this to begin with. But Erdogan himself has now come on out talking about the deal, saying that he sees no problem for Turkey if Syrian forces enter the areas cleared of the Kurdish militia. Now, this is a major concession on his part, because the indication had been up until recently that Turkey basically wanted to hang on to that land. So he's willing to kind of make a little move there. But again, the Kurds don't seem interested in this little deal. And I think Pence and Pompeo made that press conference mostly for President Trump's image. They didn't want it to be an issue for the Dallas rally, I guess. So yesterday we were talking about how former President George W. Bush was saying that only American intervention kept the world at peace, which is complete and utter nonsense. And apparently Mitt Romney is now out there ripping the ceasefire deal, saying that withdrawing the troops from Syria will be a bloodstain in U.S. history. So he's definitely one of those people for whom withdrawal from Syria represents a military loss, like Vietnam, and he doesn't want to get that. All right, let's see. We got a caller on the line. Jim in Illinois. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. Did you see Chief of Staff Mulvaney yesterday?
Yeah, actually, he kind of threw a real monkey wrench into the impeachment.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I have followed politics for years and years, ever since Kennedy. I have never heard a chief of staff throw the president under the bus and then threw gasoline on him. And this is regarding the phone call that Trump made to the president of Ukraine. Mulvaney came out and said, yeah, it was a quid pro quo. And he said it 3 times.
Yeah, but he clarified, Adam Schiff had put him under pressure to say that this was all about investigating Joe Biden, and it wasn't. It was about investigating corruption. So Mulvaney was actually clarifying the position. From Schiff's point of view, this was a failure.
Well, he clarified it after he realized he made a mistake, several hours later. And Mulvaney is an attorney. He knows exactly what to say and what not to say.
Well, he should. He definitely should. And I don't know, maybe it's time for a new chief of staff.
Well, obviously, because, I'm not a fan of Trump, but if you're going to have people around you, their job is to protect you, not make you look stupid or get you impeached. Because I find it really interesting how all these people that used to work for Trump or currently work for the administration, they're running to the Congress and giving their side of the story. And they said John Bolton might be testifying pretty soon.
Yes, and he's definitely not going to. He's not going to be kind to Donald Trump. He's got an axe to grind.
Tell me about it. And again, Trump, I don't know if you're just plain stupid, you don't care, but get some people that's going to support you, even though you might be doing something wrong. I had never seen anything like this before, Michael.
Well, you see, here's probably where Trump is coming from. First of all, as chief of, head of state of the United States, it's his job to call other heads of state around the world to basically try and solve problems. And there was this big corruption issue going on in Ukraine. And Trump was simply saying, until you start looking at that, we're going to hold up some of this money because we don't want this money to vanish into the corruption machine.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't you think he should have said that from day one?
He does need to start speaking out in his own defense a little bit more. But the problem is, even if he does, he does on Twitter, which is why Kamala Harris now is demanding, not asking, demanding Twitter shut off the president's Twitter account. They're trying to silence him. They know the corporate media is going to produce the Democrat side of the story, the pro-impeachment side of the story. They're trying to basically block Trump off from any kind of support from social media.
Well, I understand that. And the final thing, that letter that he sent the president of Turkey, don't you think that was kind of insulting?
Yeah, it was. Trump was a little overbearing on that. Trump has a huge ego, but then so does every other world leader. And, it provoked Erdogan. And that's when he launched the assault into Syria. So now everybody's trying to pull back, except, of course, the Kurds never went along with that deal, and the fighting is continuing. Right now, the United Nations is investigating the possibility that the Turkish forces in Syria have been using chemical weapons, and white phosphorus has been specifically mentioned.
Well, wouldn't the American government know that?
They very well might. They very well might, but if they're trying to put the relationship with Turkey back on track, they might choose not to say it.
Well, I think this is the first time in history where you have two NATO allies, fighting each other, and the other allies are sitting back wondering what the hell is going on.
You're absolutely right about that one, and it may be that Trump is obviously going to be aware that Turkey and Russia have dropped the use of the dollar, that Turkey is very clearly starting to drift into the Russian sphere of influence, and by not bringing up the issue of the white phosphorus, Trump, I think, is hoping he can lure Turkey back into staying with the NATO alliance.
Right. Well, Michael, I'm going to let you go. You have a nice weekend.
All right, thanks an awful lot here. We're going to let you go and switch over to Bruce in Texas. Aloha, Bruce. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, hello, Michael. You hear me okay?
I hear you just fine.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Jim Fetzer, but I thought I'd bring this up first while I was waiting on hold. Did you hear that Hillary is claiming that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset?
Yes. Yeah, that Russia is going to run Tulsi Gabbard as a third-party candidate to divide the Democratic vote and hand Trump a second victory. And there's also another name that she's added in there and that is Jill Stein is now a Russian asset, according to Hillary.
Russia. It's incredible. Do they really think people go for this? I mean, it's kind of beyond a sell-by.
If you think about it, these politicians have been getting away with this nonsense, for well over a century. They just think this is the way the world is supposed to work. And the world is changing around them. They're not evolving to deal with the new reality.
Yeah, well, hopefully she won't get anywhere with this. And I'm glad that Tulsi's staying in there. It seems like since I could remember, since I voted for Reagan, it's always been a choice, who do you dislike the most,
Yes.
And if it's Trump versus anybody else but Tulsi, I'm staying with Trump. If it's Tulsi, then it's kind of a toss-up for me. I need to hear clarify more the Second Amendment. And also the federal government is being sued by the families of the Sutherland Springs massacre victims, and they pointed the finger at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Now, this is interesting since Dick's is a huge chain that caved into the gun control lobby.
Yep.
Now they're going after Academy because the guy had a Colorado license, a driver's license, and he bought the gun in Texas a year and a half before the massacre. But since the gun came with a 30-round magazine in the box, that's an illegal sale because, according to the federal government, the Academy should have checked Colorado law, which restricts high-capacity magazines. Yeah. So now they sent the litigants. Now they're filing suit against Academy Sports and Outdoors for the massacre. Isn't that ridiculous?
I agree it's ridiculous, again, because, obviously the man at fault is the shooter. And the gun grabbers, they've just got this thing about long guns and high-capacity magazines because they are afraid of us. And if it comes to an actual conflict in the streets of America, they want to make sure that the American people are, as much as possible, disarmed and outgunned.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons for the, in my view, the Las Vegas massacre, planting that slide fire on him that wouldn't be able to achieve what they claimed he did at such a long distance. That's plunging fire. That's that kind of accuracy in fire. If he was shooting from up there, you would need to have an M60 machine gun on the tripod.
Yes.
To do it accurately. But anyhow, going back to Jim Fetzer, I've spoken on his show many times, called in. One time I was a guest, and I hope everybody that has some money maybe think about going to his site. I guess he get it through moonrockbooks.com to find it, unless he dropped his website there during the interview, and kick him a few bucks because this is incredible. And as far as Sandy Hook, I think he's spot on now. As far as the moon landing and other topics, sometimes he can go a little bit too far, take the bait and run with it. Maybe there are some fake photographs of the moon landing, but maybe they were used for PR purposes. Because how do you fake that many Apollo launches?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, those launchers are real. People were there to see them. The landing sites have now all been imaged by satellites, some of which are owned by countries that don't really like us and wouldn't go along with a hoax. So, but again, the claim that the Apollo landings are faked is just part of the propaganda the government tries to put on the internet and the independent media to make us look kooky. And that's an official term of craft, the kookification. Okay, yeah, they're bang spot on about Sandy Hook and 9/11 and whatever. So let's send them off and get them all screaming about fake moon landings and chemtrails and all this other stuff.
Okay. All right, that's all I have, and I'll let you go to the next caller. Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to go to Peter in Los Angeles. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. I just wanted to, I saw a couple articles today. One I think was very important, and it's clear to me that this coup, and I've said to you before that there can never be an impeachment in this country since all the surveillance state has gone to work since the Patriot Act and so on, without the acquiescence and active participation of the intelligence community, who can,
Agreed.
of course, if there's 2 or 3 honest people in the Congress, then maybe their kid or their parents aren't, or something, or their wife. So they can get to anybody, and there's no way to do it. They can plant things on people's computers, so on and so forth. A couple of years ago, Mike, you remember when I think it was Stan McChrystal, who was basically a special ops guy, was in charge of Afghanistan. He was a general, Stan McChrystal. And Michael Hastings, the Rolling Stone journalist who was murdered, in my opinion, was embedded with his headquarters and quoted him and had him on tape as saying that how incompetent Obama was, what a buffoon he was, how horribly he was handling the war, how he had to go around and do things his way because Obama was such a putz. At any rate, it was clearly insubordinate, and Obama sacked him. Remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Obama sacked McChrystal, and then later, of course, Hastings was murdered. But at any rate, today or yesterday in the New York Times, Admiral Ravenswood, a 4-star admiral, came out and said that Trump needs to be removed. He's a threat to the security of the country, blah, 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 blah. Now, he's retired, mind. He's not on the active list. But now we have, 4 stars coming out and calling for his head. We have the media, which, of course, is controlled, like Operation Mockingbird and everything else. The New York Times, the Washington Post, by the way, Jeff Bezos is now he's on par with Boeing and Lockheed as a defense contractor. He's iClouding the entire Defense Department. So he's part of that same cabal with the intelligence communities. All these guys, they're releasing stuff. The witness that, what's his name has, Schiff, is a CIA guy, an anonymous CIA guy, and they're deposing him anonymously or without any public scrutiny whatsoever. And they're falling back and calling people like Tulsi Gabbard, Russian spies, and all this stuff is going on. This is right up their alley. And the minute you pull something like, "Oh, we're going to get out of Syria," it gets really serious.
Yes.
Let's, to me, Mike, what do you think? I mean, I think out and out, this is a coup. And by the way, you're talking with the gentleman before me, talking about the Twitter account and how it's coup 101 to isolate. You take over the switchboards, you take over the radio stations and TV. Well, now you have to take over and limit the guy from Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else.
Yep.
So, what do you take on this, Mike? What's your
this is not a real impeachment. It can't be, because if you read the Constitution, there's a high bar for what is considered impeachment, removal from office, none of which Trump has done. There are no high crimes and misdemeanors. So this is a coup d'etat masquerading as an impeachment process, but they understand it isn't going to survive public scrutiny, hence all the closed and locked doors and the private anonymous depositions, because it's not really going very well for them. And I'm seeing all these articles in the corporate media that 2/3 of Americans support impeachment. Well, we know that those polls are very often faked. And certainly around here, everybody thinks all this impeachment talk is a lot of manure.
Well, between Comey and Strzok and Rosenstein and Clapper and Brennan, right, who may be at the epicenter after maybe Obama, who really is at the epicenter. All these people now have jobs, big paying jobs with the media, which is totally calling for his head.
Yes.
And they're part of the situation. Now they're going to be getting Antifa out and George Soros, to get that. That's the next step. You organize these controlled NGOs or controlled organizations like Antifa, and you get them out on the streets where there's violence, calling for Trump's head or whatever. That's generally the next step in the playbook.
Well, I have this weird idea here, because I keep trying to figure, with Trump, for the most part, having given in on all these issues like immigration and not fixing the voting system and vaccines and the rest of it, why do they also him? What if all of this just goes back to the bitterness of one woman who lost the election in 2016? And she's basically calling in all her chips, waving around all the blackmail files, and just saying, you're going to get rid of this guy for me. It's my turn in the White House.
It may be as simple as that. I suspect it's deeper, but that's certainly part of it. That's a big part of it.
I would agree.
But it's Mike. If they can, the guy is surrounded. Did I see an article on yours today? He surrounded himself with enemies.
Yeah, well, that's a quote from Oliver Stone's JFK. Anyway, I got to let you go. We got to take a commercial break. We have more callers waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs, memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phones to Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Mark, are you there? Okay, I don't hear Mark, so let's skip on down to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Hello? Okay, all right, let's go to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show.
I'm here.
Who's here? Okay, Dustin, right. Okay.
Yes.
What's on your mind?
Yeah, this is more than this is more than one bitter woman. This is about a religion, like a cult. And this spans worldwide, the British, the French. Because remember when Trump ran? I mean, their BBC was like against them. French newspapers. The elite neoliberal part of the French, which is a lot of part of it, and the same with the British and Germany.
They were trying. They were trying to get Hillary into the White House, and that may be why they're just so openly against Trump right now. Is how dare he spoil our plans? We're supposed to be in control of what's going on in this country. Not this outsider that somehow came on in just because the American voters wanted him.
That's what makes me like it's an ideology, it's a faction fight, but Trump put everybody in who's part of the establishment. Like, is there anybody that Trump didn't put in that's not part of it? You know what I mean? Like, he either put Lockheed Martin or Boeing CEOs in, or he put John Bolton and Mike Pompeo. They're all part of that same group. So Trump didn't put in anybody outside of the Beltway, if you know what I mean. It's still the same.
That was his biggest mistake. He wanted to be magnanimous in victory and prove that he could work within the system, not understanding that the system, right from the beginning, was already opposed to him. I mean, they were talking about impeachment before he even took his oath of office.
Magnanimous. It's like October 18th today, isn't it? Like 2019. Yes. When is he going to put people who are actually from the outside in? I don't think he will, Mike.
Well, I still want head of NASA.
Yeah, well, head of NASA, and they'll probably give you zero budget because they're spending it all on war.
True.
Yeah. I am like Douglas McGregor, who's on Tucker Carlson every now and then, and you got people like Jeff Jatras, I think his name is. He's on RT. He was worked for the Pentagon, and you got people like this who are against the war. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how Trump. I don't know why he's not he watches Tucker Carlson. And he knows Douglas McGregor. Like, why wouldn't he put him in? Because you know what, Mike? Wouldn't you want somebody like that in? Because of that Mattis, General Mad Dog Mattis going off on Trump.
Yep.
There's an element in the Pentagon that it's about they like the way things are. Corrupt.
Oh, the money is just pouring in. The vast sums of money are pouring on in. Never enough. There's never enough money for the military because they always want the next new weapon, the next new whiz-bang technology, and it really is all about the money.
That's what we're all at then. We're a welfare and a warfare state. More warfare because then the wars will never end until this government goes away. The wars will be, and when they run out of people killing outside this country, they'll start killing people in this country to keep the war going. We got to take care of that insurgency. Those damn Americans that are uppity up, When they run out of people to kill out there, Mike, they'll start looking inside. Because how do you, I wonder if people thought about what happens when, if all the wars stopped around the world, what happens to the whole military-industrial complex of the world, all these countries,
It all collapses. It all collapses. And, there'd be money for things like infrastructure and schools and, improving the lives of ordinary people. But the military doesn't want that. The military wants conflict because conflict brings more money for them to play with. And along with the money, of course, comes promotions, and they get all these silly little ribbons and, brass things they get to wear all over their uniforms. And because, if you really think about it, absent actual weapons, those military uniforms look rather silly. They come across like a marching band that misplaced all their instruments.
Well, it's all tribal and like remember tying those yellow ribbons or putting the stickers on the back of your car? Remember?
Yeah.
Support the
I remember.
troops. That was all propaganda. Just like Uncle Sam the Scam Man. You know, Uncle Sam, yeah, go sign up to get your legs blown off or get killed so people like the Bushes and the Clintons reap the rewards because that's what we do. We go around the world, we overthrow governments, we steal their resources, and we use democracy as that legitimacy. You know,
Yes,
can you hold
we
me
do.
over? I got one more.
All right, I'm going to hold you over. Stay on the line. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Anne, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're finishing up with Dustin in New Jersey. Dustin, you said you had one more thing you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, Mike, I wanted to finish up. If you're get sent off to war,
yes,
and you get your legs blown off, you're going to get pushed around at Walmart to buy frozen macaroni and cheese and fish sticks. Hillary Clinton, she doesn't make her own meals. She doesn't wash her own clothes. She doesn't drive her own car. All that stuff's done for her. They go out to fancy restaurants every day, the Bushes, the Clintons, all these people, the Lindsey Grahams, and all, you know, it's not in the same world we live in. They use us like cattle.
Yes.
And then they'll discard us like garbage. That's what these people are. They lie to us. They lie to us. The media lies to us because they're their whores. You know, the MSNBCs, the Fox News, Shepard Smith, and just Fox News in general. Even when Fox News when Rupert Murdoch was actually running it, not his sons, they were still lying to us because they pushed the whole Iraq war. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, they're all the same. They all wear the same clothes. You know what I mean? Like they're not our friends. They live in another world, and they'll walk over you and make that extra buck, I guess. That's all I got to say, Mike. Have a good night.
All right, thanks an awful lot, and we're going to switch back over to Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Thank you for waiting. What's on your mind?
Mike, I was on my way home. I went hiking today, you know?
Yep.
Beautiful. Up in the mountains, clear sky, gorgeous, over 5,000 feet. And I get in my car, and I listen, and I turn on the radio. Actually, it took me a few miles before I could get any radio reception. When I did, I turned on the fake news network. I get it on Sirius XM, you know, just to see the latest stuff. And I heard about this thing with Mrs. Slick Willie, this evil, evil witch, accusing Gabbard of working for the Russians and starting a third party, paid or sponsored by the Russians and all that. Look, Hillary is, you know, David Icke talks about reptilians. Other people talk demonic. When it comes to this woman, I don't rule out anything. This woman is so evil, so rotten, so dirty.
She is. There's no question about it.
Here is a woman, Tulsi Gabbard, a patriot. She's still in the military, still in the National Guard. As a matter of fact, she was in active duty for 2 weeks during the summer. Okay, I think she went to Indonesia. She served as a combat medic in the worst part of the Iraq War, illegal Iraq War.
Yes.
So all the bodies come in, you know, mutilated, dead, whatever, and she had to, you know, and probably went on some. I'll bet you she was in a combat chopper too, you know, a medevac, and actually probably experienced fire coming in trying to what you call a hot LZ, a hot landing zone. So here's a woman like this, good, decent woman who wants the best for our country, who wants to get us out of these stupid wars, okay? And this witch, this evil, I'd use the B word, but I know you can't use it on, you know, I think you're limited to kind of words that you use, so I'll just use, and that's good too, because why insult female dogs? So this witch has the gall, David. I mean, not only is she evil, I think she's insane. I think she's out and out insane. And can you imagine somehow having
I think she's definitely a sociopath.
Yeah. She is. Can you imagine, God forbid, having this witch with her finger on a button? Could you just imagine that? What danger we would be in? I mean, Trump isn't the greatest in the world either. I mean, you know, he's not all, you know, he's kind of, you know, iffy. But at least his heart seems to be in not getting us into war. Okay? Now they're coming out. Now you say about that 4-star general. Anybody who's pretty much been in the military knows that she was chief flag rank, especially, I wouldn't say this goes to World War II, when we really needed the best, because the country was in danger of being conquered. We were facing an enemy that really could have taken us over. So, but since then, pretty much what you get for flag ranks are troops that stick their heads up, you know, what part of the body, okay? Up others' butts. Get where they're getting. They're not the best. They're far from the best. Everybody knows that. Then they get out, and they wind up getting big contracts to work for this defense company or that defense company, Lockheed Martin, whatever else, Boeing, whatever. And this is what they're about. This is what they're doing now. They want to get rid of Trump, not because of the silly thing about the Ukraine. It's not really silly. They're trying to get to the bottom of corruption. So unfortunately, I don't think he's got the right people working on it. Giuliani is, but Giuliani should be the Attorney General. Giuliani should be the Attorney General, not Barr. He should have been the Attorney General from the get-go. If nothing else, he's a bulldog. When it comes to being a prosecutor and an investigator, Giuliani is a pit bull. And he should have been, forget about him as mayor and as a politician. I remember him as a prosecutor. He was, there was nobody better. I mean, he went after everybody. Rich, poor,
he went after Charlie Wilson.
Non-politicians. Yeah, you name it. He went after them. Even Bess Myers came under, he indicted her for something. I forget it was that she was involved in something. I mean, there was no favorites with him. Okay, he went after the mayor of New York at the time. He didn't play. So now Trump is faced with these monsters who are upset because their little war there in Syria isn't going the way they wanted it. The regime change of President Assad, and now they're really doing it. They're showing their true face. I mean, Hillary Clinton is not fit to wipe Tulsi Gabbard's behind. She's not fit for anything like that. She is a turd. She is no good. She's filthy, dirty. She stinks. Everybody knows that. The woman is evil to the incarnate, right? So anybody who doesn't believe, I know you don't. You're kind of an atheist. Myself, I don't believe. I'm not as organized for religion, but I do believe in God. And I believe there's some kind of a counterpoint of evil. Okay, whether you call it the devil or whatever else. But anybody who doesn't believe in the devil, and you look at Hillary, come on, there's got to be something to it. Okay, this woman, I would have voted. I'll be honest with you. The last election, if El Chapo ran against her, I would have voted for El Chapo. I would have voted for Stalin over her. Okay, I'm not going to go as far as that, but that's about it. I mean, you name somebody pretty much in history, and I would have voted for that. It's bad. This woman is evil incarnate. She basically is a serial killer, by the way. She just lets other people do the killing for her, whether it's destroying a nation like she did to Libya, and then laughed about what they did to Gaddafi. Okay, a man who did so much for his country. All right.
Yes.
Woman is dark, but she's basically a serial killer. As by the way, a lot of these neocons, neo-libs, what I call Trotskyites, because that's what they really are. They're Trotskyites. Trotsky believed in permanent revolution. He was not really a communist. He was actually a hybrid of a communist and a fascist. And he believed in, he wanted to use the Red Army to push his agenda around the world. Okay? And as much as the neocons and the neo-libs want to do with the U.S. Army today, push their evil agenda around the world. I'm talking about the evil agenda of the neo-cons and libs, which are really Trotskyites. And talk about Stalin. We owe him two things. One, he was instrumental in destroying the German war machine.
Yes.
And getting rid of Hitler. Two, he got Trotsky out of the country because he didn't go along. He was more of a Russian nationalist or Soviet nationalist. He didn't want to conquer the world. He got rid of Trotsky, and then he hired, I don't know if it was Soviet KGB hitman or somebody contracted, but somebody literally gave Trotsky the axe in Mexico City in 1940. So he did the world at least those two favors. Okay.
Yes.
Whatever else he's got to say. I've been studying more and more about Trotsky lately. The more I look at it, the more rotten he is, and the more influence he has on our country today. You know that he was sponsored by not Adam Schiff. I wouldn't be surprised if Schiff isn't related. Jacob Schiff, who was a Rothschild agent back in back just before he went back to Russia for the Soviet. He was actually living in New York and being supported by Schiff, Jacob Schiff.
Yeah.
All right. I would have Rothschild banker, a guy with all this money and stuff. be supporting a communist. Who, okay? Other than the fact that he felt he knew who and what Trotsky really was. Okay? So this is basically it. And these are the type of people now that have so much influence in our country. They influence both parties. They're part of both the Democrats and the Republicans. They influence the media, at least the corporate media. And now they're, they seem to be, like a band of hornets getting ready to get rid of the President of the United States. Now, whatever Trump's flaws are, they don't have a right to get. We the people, if anybody's going to vote about it, and I'd only vote for Tulsi over him, by the way, right now. There's none of the Democrats, even Sanders, none of them are worse. As bad as Trump might be, they're a lot worse. The only one I'd vote for is Tulsi. And one thing, too, I hope she does run third party. Because if she runs with a guy like Jesse Ventura, or maybe Joe Rogan, she can win. Okay, because you got name recognition now, and you got a popular message.
But the system is very much rigged against third-party campaigns. I mean, they have to have petition drives in all 50 states just to get on the ballot, whereas our two traditional established parties, it's an automatic thing. So
even if she was writers, she could urge. They could urge writers. She is so popular right now. People love her around the country. Okay?
Yes,
they're trying to suppress her, but people love her. People also love people like Joe Rogan, and people like Jesse Ventura, and there's others around that she could have as a vice presidential. And I think she should do it. I think she should do it. I don't know if you ever watched The Radical Independent on YouTube. He's this guy, Dave Surya, I think is his name. He's just a regular guy, okay? And he's a big supporter of Tulsi. And he says it too. He knows the Democrats are rigging things. He said he's also a former Trump voter too, by the way, supporter. He says he thinks she should go independent. She should. He says she should go on. What do you call it again? Not the libertarians. The other one.
What, peace and freedom?
No, not peace and freedom. The Green Party. You think she could? I don't think so. I think started. Yeah,
I don't know. I think the Green Brand. I think the Green Brand has been badly damaged by the Squad and by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. People are looking at that and saying, green now equals scam.
I think she should start an American Populist Party. That's what I think would be the best thing. And again, get somebody like a Ventura who's really not Democratic.
She's going to have to start it now. She's going to have to start now if she's going to do that.
Absolutely, because the time is running out. She should have started it before, but now is the time. And maybe she will, because I see she's getting angrier and angrier, and for good reason. What they're saying about the Squad, they say, oh, we got to support our troops. Well, we see how they support our troops. How they support our troops, how they treat Tulsi. Okay.
Well, see, they're trying to blur the line there. When they're saying support our troops, what they're really saying is support our wars. And I've actually had arguments with people where I'm saying, I support our troops. I want them home safe and sound. And they get all upset saying, no, you've got to support our troops when they're out there, killing and maiming and blowing things up.
Yeah, well, they want to use our troops as cannon fodder and to carry out the evil agenda. Okay, that's what they want to do with our troops. They couldn't care less about that. They couldn't care. They don't care about the fact when they come back they have mental problems. A lot of those mental problems, by the way,
they've never cleared up the mess over at the veterans hospitals. It's still a mess over there.
And a lot of
they don't want to spend the money.
A lot of those mental problems are not only just because of combat they may have seen, because when you compare it to World War II, even Vietnam, it's not as bad. But what it is conscious. I believe a lot of times these troops go over these places and they realize they were lied to. Even Tulsi said she went over there believing what she was told and realized she was lied to. And many other soldiers believe that too. Most soldiers, I'm sure, believe that. We have no business in Iraq. We have no business in Afghanistan. We have no business in any of those places. We have no business in the Middle East right now protecting Israel and Saudi Arabia's interests. Okay? We need to get out of these places. We need to get out of Europe too. There's no reason to have troops in Europe anymore. We need to bring them all home. We need to cut our military budget or defense budget, whatever you want to call it. It's not really a defense budget. We
need to work on this country. We need to work on this country. That Russian senator had it absolutely correct. The United States can't solve its own problems, let alone global ones. So we've got to refocus, and say, we've got to fix what's wrong with America. And there's a lot wrong here. You don't need me to tell you that.
Russia has spent $61 billion on their defense budget. Okay?
Yeah.
And with that, they have one of the finest militaries, probably the best military in the world all around. Okay? For $61 billion. Now, why can't we do the same thing? Why do we have to spend over $1 trillion?
Russia isn't maintaining 800 military bases to garrison the world. That's where the bulk of the Pentagon budget is going here. So $61 billion, I mean, they have put it into weapons development, and they're developing weapons to develop good weapons, not just to enrich defense contractors and politicians. And they're coming up with, they're way ahead of us on certain technologies. And so we're hearing the Pentagon say, well, we can't let the Russians get ahead of us. We've got to spend more money on, missiles and whatever it is that they're screaming for now. Now, of course, they're already talking about they need a replacement for the Patriot missile because it's been discovered that it is completely vulnerable to incoming targets that are underneath the horizon line. And that's a design issue. That should have been thought of before they even built the thing. What happens if you have a drone or a cruise missile coming in that is below the horizon line, and therefore add Doppler to the radar? That's the solution right there.
Mike, you know what? Every once in a while, I'll disagree with you. Like, for instance, I might disagree with space alien in the discussion, but you are absolutely 100% right. Absolutely,
okay, Mark.
100% right. You got it.
Mark, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Talk Right, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right, all the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. Talk Right makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download Talk Right today from Google Play or the App Store.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phone lines to Sam in Los Angeles. Aloha, Sam. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Just a quick sidetrack. When you were living in Hawaii, I often hear you mention about the water being hard there.
Well, yeah, it was being sucked out from inside an extinct volcano.
Right. I remember that. And out here in Los Angeles, it's also pretty hard as well. And I was just wondering, what did you do to remedy that, or you just didn't do anything?
We just lived with it. I mean, we were not in a position to be able to install a water softener on the rental property. So, we just had to do. Now, I haven't done a water test here in Indiana yet. I'm going to get around to it in the very, very near future. But, there's, the water's the water. What can I tell you?
I see. All right. So do you, and then I guess if any of the listeners out there know of anything, hopefully they can chime in as well. Yeah, it's just I find that I have a habit of boiling my water. I mean, it's filtered, but the filter doesn't seem to be doing that great of a job in terms of the minerals. It tastes a lot better, but the buildup is just incredible. It's like I have to clean my kettle like daily. And
well, then maybe you need a water softener there, and
okay.
there are products that will take care of that for you. Anyway, thank you for the phone call.
Okay.
We're going to switch over to Paul in New Jersey. Aloha, Paul. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Michael, I wanted to chime in on what Mark was talking about earlier because of the very fact that Hillary Clinton is free. Now, last Friday. Attorney General Barr was at Notre Dame spouting off about morality.
Yes.
And I was furious because how can this man be in the position of Attorney General and allow these criminals to be, free? And here it is, Hillary Clinton with the most simple, 3-point goal indictment. I mean, how it's so easy to indict her. The crime is so obvious. The quid pro quos, the uranium going to the Russians, using her office to make herself wealthier, emoluments, right? And let alone erasing her server, all the rest. And so when somebody is going to talk about morality in a position of Attorney General and you're not indicting criminals, you are a criminal. And that piece of garbage Barr, right, had Jeffrey Epstein in prison. He's the Attorney General. The buck stops there, and he allows Jeffrey Epstein to get murdered under his watch. And he's going to talk about morality in front of kids. He's a disgrace.
He absolutely is.
So
I
think
agree with you.
Yeah, and I think it's immoral to let immoral people free when he should be putting them in jail where they belong. Anyway, sir, thank you.
I agree. That's supposed to be his job. We got to take a break for station identification. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're getting a lot of calls today. And we're going to go right back to the phones here to Steve in West Virginia. Aloha, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. I want to just shed a little bit of appreciation on Trump, even though I feel like most of your callers, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to vote for him or not. But I want to say that, man, he's one of the toughest guys I've ever seen. Because if you wake up, when you wake up in the morning and turn on the TV, they're just attacking them. You open your email through Yahoo or something else, they're attacking them. It's all negative. And the guy is standing up strong. Look at his body posture. His body posture, to me, he looks strong. He's standing upright. His shoulders are back. You look at some of these Democrats, the ones that are right, they're physically weak. They look weak. And Bernie Sanders, I mean, he looks pathetic. And Hillary reminds me of a hard-boiled egg with a head on it and a little tiny pair of feet. So Trump looks strong. He doesn't look like he doesn't look like some going to be leaving anytime soon, or believes that. I mean, he's taken a lot of crap, and he's still standing up strong every single day. I don't think
as Truman used to say, the White House is the hottest kitchen in the world. But, it's one thing for Trump to stand there looking good, because don't forget, he's a reality TV star. So he's had a lot of practice holding the pose here. But where the rubber meets the road, I still see him as being a weak leader, simply because he does let all these other people get away with all this stuff.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just talking. He doesn't, for all the guff he takes every single day, he doesn't look to me like he's ready to crumble at all. Where I know if you put probably 95% of other people had to go through with what Trump's doing, they would have crumbled by now. And that's the thing I'm talking about. But anyways,
again, he does love to campaign. He does love his rallies. He may honestly think, because he's the president, that he ultimately is immune to all of the machinations. And I hope he's not proven wrong on that. But again, in terms of being the president and doing the job of the presidency, he is a bit of a disappointment. And yes, he's taking all this abuse. The question is, why is it being heaped on him? And I'm starting to think back to that comment I made earlier in the show about, is this all of this? The Congress, I mean, obviously the war machine is the war machine. That's a separate issue. But is all this rancor and talk of impeachment or the 25th Amendment, is this all proceeding from the bitterness of this one woman who lost in 2016? I mean, she's got the influence and the power, to basically get everybody in the federal government to do what she wants them to do. She knows where all the bodies are buried. She knows how they got to be dead bodies. And for all we know, she got copies of Epstein's blackmail tapes. So, it doesn't really make sense that you would have so many people against Donald Trump unless there is a motivating force. And I'm starting to think that it may, in fact, be Hillary.
Yeah. Well, I think like Dustin said, I think it's much more than just Hillary. I think there's a lot more to it. But anyways, I don't know. The last thing I'm going to say real quick is I don't know how much. I know you do your radio show, so by the time you're done, you're probably not wanting to spend much time on the internet. But if you look at there's some progressive shows like yours, but they're progressive. I mean, they want to go towards they don't like Ocasio-Cortez or any of those people, but a lot of them are for Julian Assange and stuff, and they absolutely. I mean, I've listened to about 5 of them now. CNN News. There's one for Assange. There's a couple other ones out there. They all hate the Democratic candidates. Not one of them. They don't like Elizabeth Warren, and there's a lot of progressives out there that don't. They're not going to vote for these traditional Democrats that are lying.
Well, this last Democratic debate that they just had, only the viewership was down by half from the previous Democratic debate. So that tells you something right there.
Yeah, they're all weak and pitiful. Just looking at them, they just look like pitiful people. Anyways, I'll let you go, Mike. Have a great weekend.
All right, thanks an awful lot. Same to you. We're going to switch over to Lenny in California. Aloha, Lenny. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Trump, Syria, and et al. Or et al., however you pronounce it. But I respectfully disagree with you. Yeah, Hillary is part of the problem because she's part of the establishment. But I'm telling you, the real reason Trump is catching all of this hell is because he simply has not gone to war against Iran. All right? And Syria's been allowed to be pulled back together. They didn't want that either. And, if you look at it, and for all the people who want to criticize Trump, if you go back to Ross Perot, if you remember, he so much has had the thing and the people, he had the balls to stand up for America, and the people stood behind him, and all of a sudden he quit. Why did he quit? Because somebody threatened his family.
Yes.
So how do you know Trump is not getting the same threats? He's doing what he can, and I'm with him.
I'm sure that he has been threatened. I'm sure his family's been threatened, but Trump can afford very good security, and he does have his own private security arrangements that work hand in glove with the Secret Service protective detail. And again, there was this story being floated around yesterday that there would be an attempt on his life in Dallas. That didn't happen.
Yeah, but a guy was arrested, a so-called Syrian. Okay, check Jim Stone's website. A guy was arrested, and if they hadn't peeped it out and arrested him, anything could have happened. So we don't know that. But getting back to my point is that as far as Hillary is concerned, and the comments she's made about Tulsi Gabbard, okay, what I'm smelling is the stench of fear from the fat woman. All right.
Yes.
And because, what does she care what Tulsi Gabbard's doing? She's not running for president, or is she? Wink, wink. All right. So my thing is, she fears something because she knows that all of the others, be it Republicans or Democrats, are all in the same establishment that she's in. So she can control them. I would be worried if I couldn't control someone like Tulsi. All right. And if Trump was smart, he'd probably look at Tulsi, because I don't think Pence is in his corner. Now, I want to say something about Hillary.
Yeah, but Tulsi's in the opposite party. Tulsi's in the opposite party, and under U.S. law, the president and vice president must be in the same party.
Oh, I get it. Okay, so they couldn't come together on one good commonality if they wanted to. So they could
get together on all kinds of agreement. Okay, but Tulsi cannot be vice president under Trump.
Okay. I just want good on good. That's all. But I don't know if you remember seeing that clip. Remember when Bernie had his heart attack scare like a week ago or 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
Do you remember seeing that clip on? Did anyone see that clip on The View when Whoopi Goldberg mentioned to Hillary Clinton and her daughter Chelsea Hobel. They were on The View, and Whoopi Goldberg brought up the fact that Bernie had a heart attack scare. Did you see Hillary about to go into a clap like she did with Gaddafi, and then Chelsea cut her off and started talking? Did you see that reaction?
Yeah. Well, I don't watch
Pretty
The View
interesting,
because, yeah, but that would be interesting. Yeah, that's going to be Hillary's reaction. Anybody who might be a challenger, she's going to celebrate anything that makes them seem weak and less likely to win. And at this point, there's no question Hillary is going to step into the race. The only question is, how is she going to do it? But according to the Federal Election Commission, she has an active campaign going. She's actively fundraising. And yeah, she's staying in the public eye as much as possible. And she's making these bizarre comments about how she's entitled to the presidency, that she deserves it, that it's her turn.
Yeah, because she feels entitled. Same thing Joe Biden. He knew he had all this dirt on him, but he figured they could cover it because he's entitled. All right, they're all in a secret club, and I forget the comedian's name, says we're not in it. But I want to get to my last point. I want to get to Turkey and Erdogan. Now, I don't know how many Americans. George Carlin, thank you. One of my favorites. But anyway, I don't know how many Americans remember this. But wasn't it just a couple of years ago, or not? Yeah, a couple of years ago that there was a coup against Erdogan and an attempt on his life, and he was warned by Putin that was about to happen, and the United States was supposedly behind it.
Yes.
Okay, and NATO, and so. Are people really surprised? And I'm trying to tell all who will listen that this was a deal between Putin, Assad, Iran, Erdogan, and Trump to move things back to the way they were. Now, have you ever had well, I'm guilty of this. I had a girlfriend once. I didn't want to break up with her. Okay, at least I wanted to break up with her, but I didn't want her to think that it was my idea. So
yeah, my first wife played the same.
Pressure.
My first wife did the same thing to me.
Sorry to bring up those bad memories, Mike. But the thing is, I pushed her to the point where she would break up. Okay.
Yes.
That's what Erdogan has done with the West. He has no. Why would you want to hang in a relationship with someone who wanted to kill you? He's already turned toward Putin, Russia, China, Iran. He's already made his decision. But he needs to make America look like they in charge of it. That's all. All right, that's all I got to say, Mike. Happy Friday, and have a happy weekend.
Happy weekend to you, too. We're going to switch over to Kelly in Austin, Texas. Aloha, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, a couple of things. I heard your comments about hard water. I might be able to help you with it. I'm a geochemist.
Yes.
Yeah, we see this a lot in groundwater, specifically where areas have a lot of limestone. And you have limestone aquifers where you are up in Indiana. I'm pretty sure that you're getting your water from one or another limestone aquifer. So there's a very good chance that your water's going to be pretty hard. So I really suggest you talk with a water softener company about that.
I'm still learning about the geology. I'm still learning about the local geology around here, which is fascinating.
Geology, especially if you're interested in paleontology. There's a lot of interesting paleo in Ohio.
I'm interested in that as well. But I mean, for the last 23 years, the only geology I've been exposed to is lava, and here's some more lava, and there's some more lava. And, when it's hot and molten and flowing and everything, it's kind of fun to look at. But other than that, it's pretty boring. But there's a lot of interesting minerals around here.
I was exposed to it too. I spent 2 weeks in Iceland. Just got back last week, and that's sitting right there on the spreading edge in the middle of the North Atlantic. So it was a wonderful trip for me, looking at all that volcanic geology. Mike, I'm afraid, watching what's happening right now in this country, that the Democrats are pushing so hard to try to remove Trump from office that we are actually going to erupt into a hot civil war at some time.
I sure hope you're wrong, but I wouldn't bet money against it.
Well, I hope I'm wrong too, but frankly, I just don't see I don't see I don't see any other thing happening except this leading to a hot war.
Well, but you've got all these conservatives out here. They've got their guns. Many have military experience. Then you have all the liberals who still can't figure out what bathroom to use. So who do you think is going to win this civil war?
Well, I have no doubt that if it breaks down out into a shooting civil war, that the liberals are going to lose that very quickly. You know? And then the question remains here: what will the military do? And I really can't see the military siding with a bunch of people who are trying to run a coup in this country. So I'm
Most
hoping
military
that
people I know are strict constitutionalists.
The ones I know are too. I didn't have the pleasure of serving in the military. I had a deferment because of an eye injury. But the people I know who have served in the military, by and large, are very staunch constitutionalists. I don't see these people agreeing to support a coup in the United States. So I've become a pessimist over time. I thought at first that we could work this thing out, but I just don't see the Democrats being amenable to any kind of reasonable solution here. They want what they want. They're disappointed because they didn't win the last election, and they've had now a 3-year hissy fit, and are getting desperate, I think, because they see the potential for many of these people to end up being indicted for crimes that they committed in the pre-Trump era and in the after Trump was inaugurated. And that's what I think is really driving.
The part that concerns me is we were supposed to get that Inspector General report today, and now because portions of it are to be classified, we're going to get it sometime after Halloween.
Well, I wondered about that too. I wondered, well, why in the hell even have an Inspector General report if it's going to be if portions of it are going to be classified? It needs to be available for people to see and digest. And I don't think that the different agencies of the U.S. government should have the opportunity to go in and redact large sections of that report. We need to see what's in there.
I absolutely agree. We have to be transparent. We can't be a democracy without transparency. We can't be a republic without transparency. If there's zero transparency and the government just does whatever the heck that they want, then we are living in a dictatorship. And that's a very deliberate choice of words.
Well, I think it's apparent that Congress does what it wants to do. Democracy be damned, or any they give lip service to democracy, but the last thing those jackasses want, is a real democracy. We don't live in a democracy; we live in a republic. But what they don't want is true democratic voting and opinions. So,
democracy is the excuse that we use to invade other people's countries, but they don't want it here.
I know. Hey, listen, all these people who are extolling the virtues of war need to read Ernest Hemingway's letter written to Esquire magazine, and I think it was August or September 1935. It's called Notes on the Next War, a serious topical issue. And if you want to read somebody who had a very dim view of war and of people who are warmongers, you need to read that. You need to read that essay. It was his letter. It's beautiful. I found the magazine. I liked it so much I had it photocopied and framed, and it's in my office. And I think it's something that everybody needs to read. And I suggest that you read it. In fact, one day you might want to read the first 3 or 4 paragraphs from that long letter over on your radio program.
Okay, and what's the name of that letter again?
It's 1935, and it's called Notes on the Next War, a serious topical letter. Right.
All right.
It's in 1935, and it's either the August or September issue of Esquire magazine. You can find it on the internet.
All right. We'll definitely look for that. All right. Well, Kelly, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open. And getting on back to the subject of Hillary Rotten Clinton, it's very obvious at this point she is making serious plans to step on in. And probably what she's thinking of is a brokered convention, because so far, especially after that last debate, there is no clear Democratic front runner. Warren and Biden are tied in the polls, but they're not that far ahead of the others. And the real danger is that Hillary is planning a brokered convention where the delegates will just get together and say, well, we're going to go with Hillary, forget what the primary voters wanted, because that's what they did in 2016. The primary voters voted for Bernie Sanders, and they just threw him out and threw the nomination to Hillary, and they're going to do it again. I'll tell you right now. So, little story here that came out of PoliticalInsider.com. Hillary thinks she's entitled to the presidency through political inheritance. And she's out there. Her talking point now is because Bill Clinton was elected as president of the United States. She helped him get there, and by some efforts, helped him run the country with her advice here and there. Therefore, she's the obvious choice to pick up the mantle of the Oval Office and lead the country. And by the way, when Bill Clinton was president, word leaked out, when he was out of the White House, when he was out of the Oval Office, Hillary would use the Oval Office as if it belonged to her. So she's been lusting after that center seat for a very, very long time. All right, we're going to take another break here for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay, unemployment getting worse.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. So, as was mentioned by some of our callers earlier in the show, Hillary Clinton is now out there. And again, like I said, she's keeping herself in the public eye. She's doing TV and radio interviews. She's campaigning. She's already campaigning. And her latest theory is that Tulsi Gabbard is being groomed by the Russians to run a third-party candidacy to split the Democratic vote and hand Trump the White House for a second term. And further in this same interview came out with this idea that Jill Stein is also a Russian asset. So Hillary wants to bring back McCarthyism, where anybody who doesn't agree with the government is a Russian asset. They're a commie. What's going on here? Now, Representative Adam Schiff attempted to push former U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine, Kurt Volker, to testify during his secret deposition that Trump leveraged aid to Ukraine in exchange for investigating Joe Biden and his son. The effort failed because it's come on out now that the issue that Putin raised with, that Trump raised with Putin had to do with corruption. Not Putin, whoever's currently the president of Ukraine. So this next one's a little bit weird, and I know we got a caller waiting on the line. I'm going to get to you in a minute, but I want to get some of this news out of the way. Elijah Cummings, of course, passed away in hospice care earlier in the week, and they're making a big deal about the fact that he was pumping out subpoenas from his hospital bed. But apparently, he supposedly signed 2 subpoenas just hours before he died, except the signatures don't match earlier subpoenas. And everybody's saying, who really signed these documents? All right, let's grab ourselves a phone call. Tom in Florida, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Good day to you, Michael. Yes, first off, Michael, I just want you to know you had a great call yesterday with Pete from L.A. That was a great call you had taken from him, and my shout out to Pete on that, because about the immigration situation, I believe what's going on in L.A., Michael, it's more like 5 million illegals. I think he said there's 4 million illegals. It's more like 5 million. California's got almost 7 million illegals in the state. They definitely are trying to take the electoral college with these Hispanics. They don't come here to asylumate. They don't want to know the common language. They're keeping their language. No other culture ever did that, Michael, with all these radio stations, TV stations. I live in South Florida. I'm going to repeat this to your listening audience. There's not one white Anglo male on the Miami-Dade County Commission. And that's been going on for the last 10 years here. Over in Broward County, I remember Pete had said something about L.A. has 40% in the state of California. That's the population of California now. That's ridiculous. How is a state that was the land of Ronald Reagan, how is the state of the land of Ronald Reagan turned that low now in the sheer numbers of Anglo population down to Hispanic? And Pete was hitting on some very major too, Michael. Have you really looked in depthly at what's going on with La Raza?
Yes.
You talk about a racial group. The Ku Klux Klan doesn't have nothing on La Raza. Nothing.
Yeah.
And this is the modus operandi of the Democratic liberals. You got this guy Zucker. You know, you're talking about that with Project Veritas. This guy should be put in jail for what he was saying. He was talking about shooting the president of the United States, Michael. Basically having him.
No, I believe what he actually said was that he wanted Trump to be dead, but he didn't actually issue, what could be interpreted as a direct threat that he personally was going to take action. He just said, we'd be better off.
Okay, you're correct. Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Yes. You got this other idiot, this actor, Tom Arnold, the schmuck, another schmuck in Hollywood, saying, because he was in Dallas, with the Kennedy deal. I'm like, these people these leftists get away with this nonsense. They're not being arrested for sanctuary cities. They're not being arrested for the threats they're making against our republic. It's shameful. It's absolutely shameful, Michael. But again, Pete was talking about L.A., what's going on. You're not here. Pete wasn't even telling you about the gang problem over there. Okay, all the hundreds of, I don't know how many gangs are in L.A. It's absolutely appalling. And, they're getting away with it. Pelosi, that pig, who's got millions and millions of dollars, okay? And you got this schmucky Schumer. He's worried about Israel having a wall around it, but he don't want one here. And you know what, Michael? Look at Hollywood. The Dark Angels. They're controlling Hollywood. Who are these people? They're Kabbalah. That's what they are. A big Kabbalah of demonic seed. That's what I call them. They're Elzebubs. That's what they are. I don't know what else I can say about it.
Well, you know, they're messing up here. You know, the new Batwoman TV series that features an openly lesbian social justice warrior, Batwoman. You know, the critics, of course, are saying this is wonderful, this is great, you must watch it. But apparently, the viewership is just not there. The actual consumers of TV entertainment have just excoriated it. Anyway, Tom, gotta let you go.
You're absolutely right, Michael.
We'll be back after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat, very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprim a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant them anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And as you're already aware, Project Veritas once again scored big. They contacted by a CNN employee who was just absolutely disgusted at what they were seeing over there in CNN management, wore a hidden camera, and got a lot of very embarrassing statements on tape, including the one about wishing for Trump to be dead. The Trump campaign is now planning to sue CNN for bias after the Project Veritas leaks. Now, I'm not entirely sure how successful that's going to be. And this goes back to that Fox News story on Monsanto's synthetic bovine growth hormone, which ended with the judge saying, you know, there is no law that says the corporate media has to be truthful with the public. So see what happens with that. And apparently, Anderson Cooper interviewed a congressman whose grandchild appears to have been made autistic by a vaccine injury and just tore into this guy. He was openly hostile to this idea. How can you even say that vaccines could possibly be harmful? What's wrong with you? Well, the good news is CNN ratings have hit a new all-time low after these leaks about fake news. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, this last Democratic debate was down 50% in viewership over the previous debate. This is the DNC failing. Like I said earlier, beautiful set up there. The candidates look like a police lineup here. So according to Tim Pool, YouTube is suppressing all videos which mention James O'Keefe's Sting videos. They're imposing Chinese-style speech restrictions to make James O'Keefe and Project Veritas officially unmentionable and erased from all public discussion. They really are terrified that they've lost the ability to lie to the American people with impunity. But they did it to themselves with all the lying. Now, Megyn Kelly, as you know, was interviewed by Tucker Carlson, and apparently her brief appearance there was a stunning success, drew in over 4 million viewers. If Fox News were smart, they'd hire her back, but of course Fox News is not smart. Democrats want to make it a federal crime to threaten journalists. Now, I don't know why journalists should be considered a protected class, but again, nobody likes a liar. Turning to the international news here, Iran claims to have video evidence of the oil tanker attacks that took place recently, and they're saying this was all done by Israel, the United States, and Saudi Arabia. This is coming from the Mer news agency that quoted Abolfazl Hassan Biagi, Iran's National Security and Foreign Policy Commission member. And the evidence is going to be provided to the United Nations and the Security Council. And I can already see the U.S. ambassador to the UN Security Council go, veto, 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 veto. Over in Israel, settlers have raided holy sites in Bethlehem and Jerusalem, in particular the archaeological site of Solomon's Pools to the south of the occupied West Bank city of Bethlehem, under the protection of heavily armed Israeli forces. And this next one is really going to get things heated up over there. The government of Israel is now going to allow Jews to perform their prayers and Jewish rituals inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's like allowing voodoo ceremonies inside the Vatican. And for you Catholics, how would you feel about that? The government of Israel saying, oh, absolutely yes, absolutely yes. It's time for the Jews, to be having their prayers and services in the mosque. Here's an interesting little factoid. U.S. taxpayers paid more to the Israeli defense budget than the Israelis themselves do, carrying the lion's share of it. Meanwhile, there's another right-wing push to ban criticism of Israel on U.S. campuses under the guise of fighting anti-Semitism. Well, I'm sorry, but we have this little thing called the First Amendment, and it says everybody has a right to voice their opinion about any subject, and the government has no right to interfere or retaliate. And as far as I'm concerned, being a strict constitutionalist myself, that First Amendment is inviolable. It's not subject to editing. It's not subject to modification. It's not subject to exceptions. It protects people who criticize Israel. It protects people who think Elvis is still alive. It protects even people who think the moon landings were faked. Apparently, there's been a major confrontation down in Mexico, and apparently gunmen tried to free El Chapo's son, and he got killed in the process, is the last thing that we're hearing about that. Now, this is going to really complicate things for the United States. The Venezuelan government is getting ready to hand over control of the state oil company PDVSA to Russia's Rosneft. And basically, this is being discussed as a way of erasing Caracas' debt to Moscow, which is quite sizable, but it also makes Russia a player in Venezuela, which is going to make it much dicier for the United States to figure out a way to invade that country here. All righty. Interesting little story here. There is an aircraft, it's called the E-6B. It's part of the early warning system. It's an expensive aircraft. It's an airborne command and control post. It connects U.S. nuclear forces to the president and the Secretary of Defense. They were shooting these touch-and-go landings and sucked a bird into one of the engines, causing at least $2 million in damage and temporarily grounding the aircraft. Now, in defense of the flight crew, anybody who's ever been a pilot or trained to be a pilot understands bird strikes are serious business. They're a major problem. Now, once you're above a certain altitude, obviously, you don't have to worry about the birds. But down near the ground, and these guys were shooting touch and goes, yeah, it can be a problem. And most people don't realize this, but commercial airports actually maintain special radar units and crews to keep track of flocks of birds, try and shoo them away. They do that down at the Kennedy Space Launch Facility as well. They'll, on the morning of a launch, they'll go on out there and set off shotguns. They don't shoot the birds, they just scare them away. It is a problem. There's no way to harden a jet engine against the impact of a large bird because of the stresses involved in the engine itself. So these things happen. The other day we were talking about food waste because we're going to have food shortages this winter. And that's something you need to get ready for. So according to America's Second Harvest, over 41 billion, with a B, pounds of food have been wasted this year. According to a 2004 study from the University of Arizona, on average, American households waste 14% of their food purchases. 15% of that includes products still within their expiration date, but never opened. Now, further complicating things is the fact that a lot of states have now passed laws in which grocery stores and restaurants must basically destroy and throw away uneaten, unused food because they don't want the homeless dumpster diving. You want food, you'll pay for it like everybody else. And I know at our local market that we used to go to over at in Oahu, just seeing them throw all this perfectly good produce, maybe a little wilted, maybe it's a day old, into the trash dumpster and then pour bottles of bleach all over it. This has got to stop. 41 billion pounds of that, we have got 330 million Americans that are going to have to be fed this winter, along with however many illegal immigrants are in this country at the time. And it really concerns me. Nobody's talking about that. Certainly not at the Democratic debate. Still out there arguing over which restrooms to use. All right, we're looking at a global economic crisis. The IMF has come out with a report saying that the current debt-ridden and precarious state of affairs in global economics is basically as bad as it was just ahead of the Lehman crisis. And the irony is that these modern realities are the direct result of policies supported by the IMF. They created this mess. Now they're going to get out and say, yes, we warned you it was coming. Of course you knew it was coming. You made this mess. Remember that story the other day about the head of the Bank of England? There's going to be an economic crash due to human-caused global warming. We didn't mess up the economy. This is all your fault here. The United States has imposed a record $7.5 billion with a B dollars in tariffs on European goods. Now, of course, the European nations don't pay those tariffs. You do at the store with higher prices. Over in California, Governor Newsom, who's starting to make Governor Moonbeam look good, has signed an executive order basically transferring gas tax money that was supposed to go to repairing the roads and highways over to rail projects. The governor has said, we don't need to fix the freeways and the rest of it. We're going to have these modern rail systems up and running real soon. Good luck on that one. You should see the problems that Hawaii's light rail system is going through here right now. Over in Great Britain, it looks like they may have a Brexit deal with Europe. Jeremy Corbyn basically came out publicly denouncing Boris Johnson's agreement, just trashing it, saying it was a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. And he made the mistake of doing this 26 minutes before it was actually published and available to be read. Sort of repeating that little embarrassing goof, BBC and Building Number 7 here. There are some new documents that have surfaced, and again, looking at the relationship between Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, indicating that the prince may have done a lot more illicit activities with underage girl than previously thought. And lawyers for some of these victims are saying it's time for him to be questioned under oath. It's definitely time for him to be questioned under oath. All righty. Going to the world of computers and such. It looks like Huawei is moving on without Google. They've got their flagship smartphone, the Mate 30 and Mate 30 Pro, and they're being launched without Google products being available due to the current US restrictions against Chinese companies, and more specifically against Huawei. Now, contrary to earlier speculation, Huawei has not developed its own operating system for the phone, but is instead simply using an open source version of Android. Remember, Google did not create the Android system. They simply adopted it for their phone, and they've made modifications to it, and now they claim it's proprietary, but the open source version is still out there. That means that Android applications will still be available to Huawei users, and they'll still be able to use their phones as normal. They'll have to acquire the applications through Huawei's app gallery rather than through Google Play. That's one way of getting around the problem. And it's another indicator. The rest of the world is simply moving away from the US way of doing business here. Okay, so I mentioned this on one of the phone calls we had out there. There's this new DC Universe television series, Batwoman, that was hyped by DC as an overtly social justice-oriented series. It started airing 2 weeks ago with a lot of buzz. They've had 2 episodes out, and it's endorsed by critics. It's wonderful. We have an openly lesbian superhero. And she speaks her mind, and she's all for social justice. But the viewers, they're not buying it. They are just not buying it. And we've had so many of these disasters where they, like when they made the feminized version of Ghostbusters, and they didn't even really change the script all that much. They went with, pretty much the script from the first movie. And it wasn't the fault of the cast. They're all wonderful comedians. It's just people weren't ready for the concept. Meanwhile, the city of San Francisco has cut business ties with nearly half the states in the country because of their restrictive abortion laws. I think we've sort of crossed that line where politics is sort of overruling common sense behavior. And more bad news here. As we mentioned the other day, there's this major typhoon that just hit Japan, and it swept away something like 2,000 of these bags of radioactive Fukushima waste. It's now been confirmed that several of the bags have burst open, dumping this highly radioactive water into this river that feeds right into the Pacific Ocean. That is definitely not a positive thing. They had that big nor'easter up in New England, blew down a lot of power lines, 500,000 people without power. And there's another tropical storm forming up aimed at the Panhandle in Florida. This is a bad weather season. Fortunately, it is. So anyway, Mumia Abu Jamal may get another chance at freedom. He's scheduled for a new hearing next year in which all of the problems of the original trial, including an openly racist judge, are going to be brought up. And they're very confident that he may actually finally be released from prison. That would be a good thing. All right, we got to take a break from commercials. Back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
Okay, now, do you remember the Panama Papers scandal, where it came on out that there was this law firm that was helping the rich avoid taxes? And apparently Netflix made a movie about the incident called The Laundromat, because they were laundering money. And the law firm is now suing Netflix for defamation. How dare you make a movie saying that we were helping the rich people launder their money? I hope they get a different judge than Fetzer did. But it was a significant case here, because it basically showed that, yeah, the ultra rich have got access to advantages that we don't. Now, here's an interesting little article. This came from Ethan Allen and his website, saying that Iran may have already won the war for the Middle East simply by the fact that they haven't been invaded. And it looks like it might not happen. Now, of course, Israel could simply haul off and carry out a nuclear attack. But I think that's, we had a caller earlier in the day who said the big problem here, the reason everybody hates Donald Trump, he has not invaded Iran for Israel. And I mean, if you look at the problems we've had in places like Afghanistan and Syria, Libya, and Yemen, taking on Iran is going to be extraordinarily difficult. They're not a small, weak power. They really are not. Apparently, Tulsi Gabbard is out there voicing her displeasure at Hillary's claims that she's a Russian agent. That would be a good thing, I think. You know, I'm going to go back to supporting Tulsi Gabbard. I don't agree with her on the Second Amendment, obviously. And it's not like I personally am a shooter any longer, but it's a principle. It is a right guaranteed to us under the Second Amendment of the Constitution. And it is specifically there so that we, the people, have the ability to resist abusive central government. And let's be honest, the central government is getting very abusive right now, isn't it? Apparently, Greta Thunberg was up in Canada and was met with counter protests. Apparently took her by surprise. Now, she's not acting on her own. She's part of this large interconnected structure of elites that are using her, the fact that she's a young girl, to try and induce fear, panic, and a sense of urgency in young people so they can be stampeded into going along with the climate agenda, which really comes down to give us more of your money and your obedience, and we will save the world. All right, there's the music. Time for us to get on out of here. Stay tuned for Stadmiller, and I'm sure he's got lots of things to share with you. Message to the control room here. So please support RBN as you could hear from our first hour interview with Jim Fetzer, we're under attack. We're all under threat right now. This is very, very serious. Sooner or later, they're going to get around to us all and find a way to try and shut us down. Apparently, Jeff Bennett is filling in for John today with a special show, so you want to tune in for that one as well. Please donate to RBN. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. Have a really good weekend, a safe weekend, and we'll talk to you hopefully from the newly restored studio on Monday. So have a good weekend.